Every so often, you get to actually look behind the curtains and see exactly what's happening and what the thought process is that creates great marketing. That's exactly what we're going to do today with Jimmy Mackin. Best I know in the business, he's going to break down for you exactly what his thought process is and give you a system that you can follow to develop some of the best marketing you've ever developed. All right, Jimmy, this is an interview that, man, I'm being a little selfish, to be honest. This is something that I love doing, which is getting in your mind to think about how
Sure.
you think about marketing. I think a lot of times we think of marketing and we just think about the lead generation. We don't think about the system and we don't think about the process. And
Yeah.
so, as you and I have talked about this, I love the idea of kind of understanding what it is and your thought process. And maybe that helps other people not just think about what they can do to generate leads, but how do they think about what that process is to continue to do this on another level. Can you just kind of break that down for everybody
Yeah.
if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, it's great to be back with you, Jimmy. And I think, you can see them in a hotel room right now because I'm on the road for the Tom Ferry Summit event right now. And when I'm on the road, I've been probably 35, 40 cities this year. You and I have shared, both of us have shared publicly many marketing ideas and campaigns and strategies. And I think you hit the nail on the head, which is our hope, my hope in this conversation is really just kind of give you a behind the scenes look.
Love
How
it.
do you create marketing campaigns that make the phone ring? So I'll share my screen here, Jimmy, and we'll dive right into this. And I'm going to go through a process with the audience here and everyone who watches this live and watches the replay to give you a sense of this is how I think about marketing. This is how I develop marketing campaigns. And ultimately, this is how I help our real estate community be in a position where they can begin to differentiate themselves from every other agent out there. So on that note, let me go ahead and share my screen. And Jimmy, just give me the green light that you can see me and you can
Got
still
it.
hear me.
Got it.
All right,
Yes.
cool. All right, so I'm about to share with you the $100 million email. This email, Jimmy, I wrote while I was at a Starbucks at the beginning of the year. I just had this epiphany kind of popped into my head, this idea, this angle, and I created it in the Apple Notes. And then I went back to my computer. I updated it in Google Docs, and I shared this widely with the real estate community. Now, this campaign was so insanely effective that almost everybody, which is very rare, by the way, almost everyone who used this got a listing. That's how good this campaign was. And so when you look at this campaign, it starts off with the subject line, how much equity did you gain in 2023? I transitioned in saying, hey, I'm setting aside some time this week to prepare equity reports for my clients. My clients love these reports because they're more detailed and accurate than online tools. Can I create one for your home? And then I turn the corner and say, let me know. P.S. I just completed a report with my client. They were surprised to learn they gained $49,000 in equity. Now they're contacting their mortgage company to eliminate their PMI. Now, here's the thing about this campaign. This was not some act of brilliance by me. This was not some lightning in a bottle striking me. This was actually a result of following a process. And so this campaign's success also, Jimmy, wasn't an accident. It wasn't like it was a one-hit wonder. It was a process that I follow. And so what I want to do is I want to give everyone a behind-the-scenes look. I have over the last year created hundreds of marketing campaigns that are being used by thousands of agents, and they've generated billions of dollars in listings. And their process I'm about to unveil to you is a process I have followed that helps me get into that creative mode to produce things that actually work. And so, what everyone's going to learn today is they're going to learn a few kind of key principles. The first one is how do you stand out in a crowded market? We still have 1.5 million realtors. Everyone was expecting we're going to have a mass exodus, Jimmy. You heard it, right? Hey, we're going to see 300,000 agents, 500,000 agents leave the industry. When? It hasn't.
If not,
It's not happening. So this market, as I've been saying for years, is still the real estate Hunger Games. The second thing I'm going to teach you is that you cannot, great line by Charlie Munger, you cannot do a good deal with a bad person. Neuroscience tells us that 95% of our decisions, our habits, our behaviors are made by the subconscious. If we do not create an emotional connection with our marketing, we have no chance of that driving results. So I'm going to teach everyone a process around creating an emotional connection. The last thing I'm going to teach you here, as it relates to the framework, is how do you get people to raise their hand? We're entering into a world right now where the average consumer is seeing between 8 and 10,000 ads every single day. It's a noisy world out there. click this, buy this, shop this, scan this, call me here. Like the consumer is overwhelmed. So we have been conditioned to ignore it. So how do you create marketing creative and marketing campaigns that get people to say, yeah, I actually like to learn more about that? And the last thing I'm going to share with you today is what I think is probably the best kept secret in real estate. It is in marketing, for that matter. It's something that took me a really long time to learn. And that is, how do you maximize your ROI through distribution? This is the secret sauce. This is like, how do you pour gasoline on the fire? And so let's dive right into the first step in my process, which is attention. How do you gain attention in a noisy world where everybody else is clamoring for the consumer's attention? Now, I want you to imagine for a second, Jimmy, you're a real estate agent and you got a new development and you want to promote that new development. You might run an ad that looks like this. New development, right? Starting at $324,000. Now, Jimmy, I want some feedback on this. Is there anything when you look at this ad that's memorable, that's interesting, or unique?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just like every other ad. It's
It,
just kind of blurs like everything else.
it's just like every other ad. So this is a real development. This is the Royalston new development. They actually rolled out a new ad campaign to promote their new development. The thing is they didn't hire an agent or have an in-house agent market the property. They hired an ad agency. And the ad agency did not create this ad. The ad agency did something which I'm actually very embarrassed to show live here on the air, but this is the ad they came out with. Royalston, other buildings want to have sex with it. Now, this technique is listen, they took a full page ad. I'm just the messenger here, Jimmy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they took this ad out. And what was brilliant about this ad is this is known as something called pattern interrupt. It is something completely unexpected. Now, here's the twist. An ad agency knows if they run an ad like this, there's going to be people like me who have a childish sense of humor who are going to laugh. And then there are going to be people who are like, maybe more puritanical background who are going to be offended by this. So they ran the following week. They already prepared for this. They ran the following week, the next ad, which was an apology letter to Vancouver saying, and I'm going to read the copy because I think this really encapsulates what great marketing is all about. They said, Vancouver, we sincerely apologize for the sex comment on our recent Royalston advertising campaign. It was meant to entice people. We did sell a bunch of homes. In the future, we'll focus on presenting, the amazing features and the location. And for the record, we deny the rumor regarding the CN Tower and the Royalston having sex. Nor do the Royalston have sex with the Wave condominiums in Surrey. And we'd like the on-cue to stop calling. The Royalston doesn't like you like that and only wants to be friends. And so this ad is out of bounds. I mean, this thing is like, this is like a 10-year-old ad that I still remember because it changed the way I think about marketing. So Jimmy, which ad are you going to remember? Starting at 324 or the Royalston other buildings want to have sex with it? And that's the way, right? Like that's the way our brains are wired. And so there are 8 tools that I use that help me create attention or capture attention. Pattern interrupt, which we just went over. Scarcity, I'll cover here in a second. Priming, which is, hey, you're going to love this. Surprising stat, 87% of homeowners have this in common. Comparison, A versus B. Contrarian, you shouldn't sell your house. Personalization, this ad is perfect for someone who's looking to accomplish X. And of course, curiosity. Would you sell if? ? And so I'm going to give you a couple examples here in the real world to kind of hammer this point home. Now, when you look at Redfin as an example, when you go to Redfin's website, it says find the right home at the right price. Now, this is what I refer to as corporate marketing. I'll cover more of this a little bit. It's using alliteration. It's very clever. They probably had 15 different marketing meetings to choose the exact right words, but they're missing a really important part. There's nothing interesting about this. There's nothing unique about this. There's something that's going to get my attention. Now, when you contrast that to a company like Open Door, you see how Open Door is positioning their home search. Self-tour and buy homes before they're listed anywhere else. And you can just see the juxtaposition between what I would call corporate marketing and marketers who understand the power of psychology. Psychology is that invisible force that drives all of our behaviors. So this is another example, Jimmy, of what I would refer to as using scarcity in your headlines, in your subject lines, in your ad copy to get people's attention. Now, let's hammer this point home just a little bit more. Let's take a scenario like, right? Like, well, stop. Just let me just
Sorry, man.
stop for a moment.
I couldn't even hold myself. Man, this is so good. This is really, really good. I mean, you're putting together the process in my head that I've thought about, but never been able to communicate. I mean, this is going to be so helpful for so many people.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And then what you're looking at right now, Jimmy, we know one of the best ways to promote your business is when you have a coming soon listing to kind of put all your chips on black. And so what I see agents do, and it's such a missed opportunity, is they come back and say, hey, 55 Main Street, Bedford, New Hampshire, coming soon. And again, this to me is an immediate red flag. You're not using any type of psychological levers or tools. It's really pretty standard. Other agents are doing it. It's checking off all the wrong boxes. So let's look at the same situation through the lens of using some of the tools I referenced earlier. So as an example, you might say, priming, you have a coming soon listing, forward this to a friend. I'm already setting up in the mind of the consumer that, hey, I want you to share this thing I'm about to share with you. Another example, scarcity. Hey, exclusivity ends in 24 hours. I'm opening that up because the clock has started in my head. Third, pattern interrupt. I just wrote this email earlier this week. You may have saw that on Instagram. I don't want to share this with you in parentheses, but I have to. And this email, by the way, is so good because this is like, hey, listen, I don't want to share this home with you because I want to buy it, but my clients hired me to do A, B, and C, so I'm going to do everything in my power to get them the best price. It's a great email. It starts off with an attention-grabbing headline that hooks you in. Surprising stat, homes like this sell in 8.4 days. I'm opening that email. I'm watching that video. I'm clicking on that ad. And lastly, curiosity. Would it help if, hey, I've got a new listing about to hit the market. Would it help if I sent you over all the photos? I don't think this one's going to last very long. So you can use the 8 tools that I use and a whole bunch of others, but you can use the 8 tools that I use in all those really common situations, scenarios when it comes to promoting your business. And the most important thing to remember here, and you and I both believe this, Jimmy, is that the goal of marketing is to get people to raise their hand. But if we don't get their attention, we have no chance of making that happen. And David Ogilvy put this best, man. He said, you can't save souls in an empty church. So we got to get people to say, hey, let's get them into the church. Let's get them, paying attention to us. Now we can start building that connection. So Jimmy, let me just stop there. Questions, thoughts, comments on this before we move on to emotion?
Yeah, I would say obviously you may not use all of these in a specific type of post ad, whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
What is it that you look for? I mean, that you always start with, or that you always include? I mean, you may not include them, all at one time. Are there specific ones that you want to make sure that you have in specific things?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think when it comes to develop, like, which attention grabbing headline do I use and when, oftentimes I let the situation dictate the headline. So oftentimes I'll say, hey, what is the thing I'm trying to promote? You can only promote really 3 things in real estate. You can promote your value, you can promote your assets, meaning a listing or a buyer, and you can promote your results. And so oftentimes, if I got a situation, Jimmy, where, let's say I was talking to my buddy Kim Montgomery, who had a buyer who bought one of her listings. She bought it. The buyer purchased the home and went under contract in June. The closing was in August, and the deal fell apart the day of closing. So then she had to turn around and sell the home basically again. She had to go find another buyer, and she did it, and she sold it again. And so that story, which I'm gathering facts to understand the story, the headline I wrote was just sold in parentheses twice. And it's like you kind of go, huh?
Yeah.
And so the story dictates, the facts and the story dictate the angle for me. But what I'll say is you get better over time. It becomes more natural over time, which is a skill you develop. So great question.
Yeah, that's great. And you've talked about this before, the moments, like, huh?
Yeah.
And then you've
Yeah.
talked about the head nod moments. Are there any of those other moments that you're trying to have during specific parts of this at all?
The great thing about advertising is that you don't have to explain whether it's good or bad because people feel it.
Yeah,
And
man.
so Steve Jobs famously, when people would come and present ads to him for Apple when he was still the CEO of Apple, they would oftentimes, like in an ad agency, you come up and you pitch, hey, let me give you the background, let me give you the context, let me give you the situation, and he would say, in a Steve Jobs way, say, hey, listen, you need to stop talking because you're not going to be here when the 45-year-old mother with 3 kids sees this ad on the TV or on her way to school to drop the kids off. You're not going to be in the seat with her explaining it. So I got to look at this thing through a fresh perspective with no context. And if I don't have that internal feeling and instinct, like, oh, that really resonated with me, then it's probably not going to resonate with the audience that we're targeting, because he understood very deeply the audience that he was selling to. So I think it's a little bit of the head nod, the what is that, and also that kind of gut instinct where like we all kind of sense what a good ad is, and we all can kind of point to it. We may not be able to describe it. We may not be able to say why we think it's a good ad, but we just feel it. And so I think that you develop that feeling as you become more prolific with your marketing campaigns.
Yeah, Jimmy. The quote I love also is that knowledge speaks, wisdom listens. So let me listen a little more. Let's keep moving with this. I want to be quiet because I got so many questions, but I know there's so much good stuff coming. So let's keep moving
Sure,
if you.
absolutely. So let's talk about the stack. So now they get attention. The next step is we got to figure out a way to make it an emotional connection. Because if we don't figure out a way to make an emotional connection, we're going to get a lot of attention, but not a lot of revenue. And so the emotional connection for me, it comes down to 3 things I try to do every time. Number one, I try to describe, I'll come back here, describe the situation. I just try to describe the feelings, and I try to describe their desired outcome. So I'm trying to describe, hey, here's the situation, or here's their situation. Here's like how I feel, or here's how they feel. And here's the desired outcome they have, or here's the desired outcome I have. And I'll back up for a second just to give you an example. This is a ad from Old Spice. Now, Jimmy, this ad came out in 2010. We all remember this ad because it's one of
Yeah,
the most famous ads in advertising. And they probably could have used you in this photo versus this guy, but that's a
sure.
separate story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dad
uh,
bods are really in these days. You know what I'm saying? But yeah,
they actually are. I've been
I
following
know.
that trend.
So I
Uh,
keep telling myself too, Jimmy. Um,
so when you look at this ad, there's something really special that Old Spice did. So the ad, by the way, came out in 2010. They had 107% increase in sales almost instantly. Now, when you look at the hook here, the man your man could smell like. Let me ask you a question. Who is this ad targeting? Is it targeting men or is it targeting women?
People making the buying decision. It's the women.
That
It's it.
that is exactly correct.
Yeah.
60, this is what Old Spice found out. 60% of all body wash purchases decisions were women buying it for their husbands or their boyfriends or their significant others. And so they did not run an ad campaign that was appealing to men, because men will just wash themselves with whatever is in the shower at the time. They do not discriminate against whatever is in there.
Right.
Women obviously
Yeah.
do not want their men to smell terrible. So they like the man your man could smell like. It was an ad targeted towards women. Old Spice understood the situation, the feelings, and the desired outcome. So when you pull all this together, I'll give you an example of this. Let's take a real world real estate example, which is an expired listing. So someone's house expires. What is the situation? They've just spent the last 6 months in limbo. Now they're getting bombarded with calls and messages from agents.
Right.
They're feeling disappointed. They're feeling annoyed. They're feeling frustrated. And what is their desired outcome? They still want to sell the house, but they don't want to go through the same experience again, and they've developed a deep mistrust for real estate agents. So when I think about developing an ad campaign or creative campaign, I'm saying I got to make an emotional connection with somebody. So when I see ads like this is a typical expired letter. I noticed your property was listed at 654 Elmwood Street. It's expired. Okay. Should we ever tell a consumer that their house expired? Like, pro,
Mm-hmm.
pro, right? I'm sorry to hear that. Do I believe you? And I'd like to offer my services. Like, wait a second, we haven't even gotten a date, and you want to get married. And so
Right.
this is the reason why a lot of these marketing campaigns, although they're well intentioned, don't actually hit home. Now, when you compare it to, this is a campaign I'm about to share with you that we've been having wild success with, including my buddy Lourdes, who got a $25 million listing appointment. This is the expired letter we created. And when you read this letter for the first time, like, oh, it's a good marketing message. But when you dig a bit deeper, you can see I'm describing their situation. Hey, now that your home didn't sell, you have a wave of agents coming in saying they get the deal done. I'm describing how they feel. Hey, you're not buying it. You're frustrated. You're annoyed. Your phone probably hasn't stopped ringing in the last 2 weeks. And then describing their desired outcome with a little bit of an Easter egg. Hey, to sell for top dollar, which is something they want to do, there are 10 essential marketing tactics. I reviewed your home on the MLS and you're missing 6 of them. I'm confident we can fix them and we can help you sell that house for $865,000. So in these marketing messages, I am describing the situation, I'm describing the feelings, and I'm describing their desired outcome. Now, let me give you one last pro tip here before we move on, because we've got attention. Now we're starting to build an emotional connection. You've got to figure out a way to communicate to people as if you have an audience of one. Oftentimes, I see what I refer to as corporate marketing. And this is an example of the all-new sedan. This is an ad for Toyota Corolla. This is the all-new sedan for a lifetime of good times. Now, Jimmy, I drove a Toyota Corolla, okay? I do not remember, okay? I do not remember. I do not remember having a lot of good. I drove a Corolla because I was broke, not because I wanted to flex and say, hey, hey, everybody, what's going on, right? And this is the type of marketing that you see in corporate marketing, and we almost in many ways we gravitate towards this. Unintentionally, we communicate in a way that is not the way we speak or talk to our prospective customers. And so I want to contrast that to an ad for a Toyota Corolla, same car, on Craigslist. Now, I'm going to read this ad to you. You want a car that gets a job done. You want a car that's hassle-free. You want a car that literally no one will ever compliment you on. Well, look no further. This is the 1999 Toyota Corolla. Let's talk about features. Bluetooth? Nope. Sunroof? Nope. Fancy wheels? Nope. Let me tell you a story. One day, my Corolla started making a strange sound. I didn't give a shit. I ignored it. It went away. The end. This, to me, now I read this, I'm like, this person understands me. They understand I want a car that's hassle-free. I don't really care about features. I don't have to worry about maintenance. It just got to work. Like, I'm not looking for a lifetime of good times. I'm looking for something that's going to be no hassle. And that's the magic when you start to communicate in a way where you make an emotional connection with the consumer. So backing up for a second before we go forward, we've got their attention. Now they're saying, okay, we've got their attention through one of the 8 principles we use. Now we've said we're going to describe their situation, their feelings, and their desired outcome. We're incorporating that those are tools that we're using to craft our marketing message. Now we've got to get them in action. Now this is really where you can do all the things right here, Jimmy. I mean, you can have a great headline, you can make an emotional connection, but if you don't get this right, what will happen is, I'll back up for a second, what will happen is you'll get all this exposure, but you won't get the results you're looking for. Okay. So this is one of those things where you get a ton of exposure. People are like, oh, it's a good ad, but you don't motivate people. You don't persuade people. You don't invite people to actually participate. So let me back up for a second here. This company is called RX Bar. They were doing, in 2014, they were doing about $2 million in revenue. They were on life support. I mean, that's just not a lot of revenue for a brand that sells protein bars and health things. Now, you look at the campaign right now, they didn't change the price. They didn't change the ingredients. They didn't change they didn't add new products. They didn't change where they sold it. They only changed one thing. And when they changed that one thing, they went from $2 million in sales to $160 million within 3 years. And later they got acquired by Kellogg for $600 million. Jimmy, what do you think they changed?
I'm not sure. They changed obviously the packaging, I would assume.
The packaging, exactly.
Hey.
Jimmy. There you go. Okay. That's all they did. So when you compare RX Bar as prescribed by nature, no gluten, no GMOs, no soy, no dairy. When you compare it to the new RX Bar, same product, same ingredients, sold at the same place, 3 eggs, 6 almonds, 4 cashews, 2 dates, no BS. And this is one of the elements, I think, of a great action-oriented product or service or feature is this idea of clarity. And so I'll come back for a second here and talk more about this. But if you can get this right, it's magic. I mean, and I'll give a couple examples here in a moment, but let me give you the cardinal sins, the things I don't want you to do. So number one, your call to actions need to stop being pushy. Don't miss this one out. Buy now, click now, date the rate, marry the house. All that stuff is nonsense. I mean, Jimmy, we don't subscribe to those ideas. We don't get persuaded that way, yet we think we can do it to other people. It's
Mhm.
nonsense. Too many asks. Hey, Jimmy, can you click, call, scan, text, email, subscribe? I mean, like, I want you to imagine, Jimmy, I have like a ball, one ball in my hand. If I throw that, if you and I underhand toss it, right? If I throw that ball to you, chances are you're going to be able to catch that ball. Now, if I got 10 balls in my hands and I throw them all at you and say, hey, Jimmy, make sure you catch that one, you're going to be struggling because there's too many things that are, clamoring for your attention. And so I see this happening all of the time. One message, one ask. Sometimes, in rare scenarios, you can get by with an alternative CTA, but one message, one ask. Like, it's a noisy world out there. The last is just too generic. I mean, if everyone's saying the same thing and they get inundated with, hey, find out how much your home is worth, find out how much it's worth, it's too much. It's like, I've seen this 1,000 times. And it's not that we intentionally want to ignore it, but our brains tune it out, right? Our subconscious says, I've seen this before. I know what it is. It's not different. It's not unique. It's not interesting. And so what I look for in a call to action is I have two ingredients. Is it clear? What do you want me to do and why? And is it compelling? Why should I do it? Those are the two things I really look for. And I have one of yours in here, Jimmy, that I think is a what I absolutely love, which I think is the perfect call to action. I'll share in a second. You know where I'm going with this. But here's an example. Hey, I just reviewed it. I just reviewed my client's estimate. It was off by $123,000. Have you checked yours recently? Easy to answer question, right? And again, think about not a get them to convert, think about an invitation to discuss, to explore, to collaborate. So my mental state here is like invite them into a conversation versus forcing them to do something. 55 Main Street just sold. Has anyone called you about the details? And again, there's more context around these, but this is like, how do you take that attention, that emotion? How do you get them to raise their hand? Again, easy to answer question. This one is yours, which I am obsessed with, which now I use in everyday life. Hey, I'd be a terrible marketer if I didn't ask, right? I'd be a terrible
Mhm.
husband if I didn't ask. I'd be a terrible friend if
Yeah,
I didn't ask.
it's good.
Would you consider selling your home if you got a great offer? And I think this is a fantastic example. And the last one I'm going to share with you, is this one that I think is just dynamite, which is if the only thing you love about your home is your interest rate, have you explored the idea of renting your house instead of selling it? Now, what's so interesting about this, right, is that like it's a lot of people can relate to that first line, but the second line, Jimmy, we're not going for the kill. We're actually going for the consultative approach. Hey, have you looked at renting? And they probably have at that point. And they probably have come to the conclusion, or they need more information to realize they probably don't want to be a landlord. Most people don't
Mhm.
want to be a landlord. And so this is a great way to maintain the position of being a consultant as opposed to being a pushy salesperson. Now, at the beginning of today's session, I gave you the $100 million email. We talked about how to get someone's attention, how to build an emotional connection, and how to think about how to reimagine how we get people to raise their hand. Now, what I want to do is I want to look at that email through the lens of the framework that we just walked through. And so when I pull that email up again, the $100 million email, you can see subject line, how much equity did you gain in 2023? That's attention. I'm using curiosity. I'm trying to like, this is, I wonder how much I've gained. I actually don't know the answer to that question. Emotion. Hey, I'm setting some time aside. That's a situation. My clients love these reports. That's the feeling that my clients have. And then my call to action is very simple. Hey, can I create one for your home? And then I add a little bit of a twist on the compelling side, which is I just completed a report and my clients were surprised to learn they gained $49,000 in equity. So now that you've got this framework, you now you can look at this marketing campaign not as an act of brilliance, something that's unattainable, something that only a professional could write, and you can realize it's the result of a process that professionals follow. to create marketing campaigns that make the phone ring. So, Jimmy, on that note, as I mentioned before, the best kept secret in real estate. And this is where we're gonna land the plane here. The best kept secret in real estate, which is distribution. Now, Jimmy, question for you: who sells the most amount of fast food in America?
McDonald's. I'm guessing.
That's right. That's
Okay.
McDonald's. Okay, you got it. Who sells the most amount of coffee in America?
The guess would be, I actually know the answer to this. McDonald's.
Well, it's actually, yeah, McDonald's, but I'm saying like coffee
Oh,
shops that sell coffee.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, Starbucks. I'm sorry.
that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Starbucks,
Yeah.
exactly.
Sorry,
Starbucks.
I got ahead of you.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's Starbucks. But like, would anybody that you know describe McDonald's cheeseburgers as the best cheeseburgers in America?
No.
No, you can't be friends with people like that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And very rarely would you find someone who would with a straight face tell you that Starbucks is the best coffee in America. It's
Right.
not. Okay.
Right.
But if you measure success based on companies who produce the most amount of revenue, if that's your measurement of success, then you have to admit that McDonald's is the most successful restaurant and Starbucks is the most successful coffee shop. The thing
Yes.
that McDonald's and Starbucks both have is they have a, call it, average or adequate product with incredible distribution. And so how this applies to real estate and how this applies to marketing is that every campaign you create, every email you create, Jimmy, right? Think about channels and audience. Every email, can that become a text message to your SOI? Can that become a postcard to your farm? Can that become a short form video you post on social media? Can that become an Instagram story? Can that become a direct advertising campaign? Every marketing campaign I create, I ask the question, how can I distribute this same campaign, slight tweaks and slight modifications across different channels to reach different audiences? And when I can do that, I can amplify the message through multiple channels, same content, same angle, and reach 10x the number of people. So really smart businesses and really smart marketers understand the power of distribution. So every time you create a video, ask yourself, can this become an email? Can this become a text? Can I turn this into a postcard? Can I run some ads behind this? Can I get this into different channels in different audiences without having to create something brand new from the jump? This took me way too long to figure out. That's something I wish I learned much earlier in my career. And so let's end with this, Jimmy. Marketing, when you put it all together, the framework that I use to create marketing campaigns that make the phone ring is I got to get people's attention. I got to make an emotional connection. I got to get them to raise their hand. And then I got to get it in front of as many people as I possibly can. And if I do that over and over and over again, I will have an abundance of opportunities. And my last bit of advice for everyone who's going to watch this is very simple, is that when you get started, it's going to be, you're going to make mistakes. We're all amateurs at the beginning. And I'm always inspired by my favorite Paul Graham quote, which is, and I'll pull it up here, you can see it. If you don't try to be great, you won't even be good. And so for me, the aspiration of taking a framework like this and really pushing ourselves to get better at what we're doing, what will happen is you are going to be surprised and I think excited by the results you get, because the average agent, Jimmy, as you and I both know, is just spraying and praying right now. So I'll stop there, Jimmy. I'll stop sharing my screens. Hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully I give you insight in terms of how I think about creating marketing campaigns that make the phone ring.
Yeah, no, it is. It absolutely is. This is one of those things, I mean, that I really do appreciate you is that you're always constantly trying to be great. And through that process, it is giving those opportunities for these $100 million type of
Yes.
emails. So from that standpoint, listen, I mean, that's the thing I think if we can stress that at the end is not everything is going to be great. But by doing those, you gather the data, you continue to refine, you continue to get better, and you begin to gain enough data on how people are responding that gives you the ability to create that system for yourself and also with the framework that you've done here,
I
man.
love
There's
that.
nobody in the
Yeah.
business better than you, brother. And this is so good. Listen, anybody who needs to catch up with you, because obviously this is so good. I obviously love everything you're doing on Instagram. How would people get in touch with you if they have questions or have additional questions?
Yeah, the best place to stay connected with me is always on Instagram. You're seeing me work in public. I'm sharing ideas, I'm sharing concepts. So stay connected with me on Instagram. And by the way, make sure you tune in because Jimmy and I do live office hours every few weeks where we answer your most pressing questions. So you will see the Jimmy duo together on Instagram as well. So Instagram is the best place to connect with us.
Hey man, love everything about what you're doing. Appreciate your friendship. Appreciate everything you're doing for the industry. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.